Welcome back. And this past week, our own Supreme Court took up a very sensitive topic as it was reviewing several states throughout the United States have passed their own legislation that will not allow boys to participate in girls' sports. And if you listen to any of the arguments, pretty revealing. And even some of the follow-up I guess, investigations there in the Senate hearing committee with Senator Josh Hawley. So there's a lot on the table with this subject, and I'm very delighted and very timely to have with us today Denise Shick. She is the founder and executive director of Help for Families Ministries. She's the executive director of Living Stones Ministry. She's authored 7 children's books and several nonfiction books, including My Daddy's Secret, Understanding Gender Confusion, a Faith-Based Perspective, and Gender Confusion, a Biblical Q&A for Families. She has her bachelor's degree in psychology and is a certified biblical counselor and life coach. There's a picture of a couple of her books on the screen, and the website is help and the number 4, helpforfamilies.com. Denise, good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your work. Just curious, how do you think the arguments went before the Supreme Court this past week?
Well, I think it was very interesting and had gone very well. When we look at what's happened in our nation, really around the world with women's sports and the difficulties that women have had in being competitive with others that are biologically female, I often am reminded of the girls that had scholarships at risk for colleges, for further education and things of that nature that had been really the opportunity taken away from them. So I think it's about time that America is waking up to how this ideology, mindset has transpired through the last several years.
I think the number is 27 states have passed legislation to stop this. If the Supreme Court rules that it's a state issue, we could be going down the same road as Roe versus Wade. But yesterday there was, or yesterday or the day before, there was a hearing in the Senate where Senator Hawley really cross-examined Dr. Reed about all of this and couldn't answer the question, can men get pregnant? I guess my question is, as crazy as that is, have we lost our minds?
Well, it would kind of seem that way, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think, part of the problem is that people are being very careful on how they feel they may offend somebody with the sensibility of what is the biological truth. And we know that biologically speaking, my husband couldn't become pregnant. Somebody with the DNA as a male cannot become pregnant. Therefore, it's all political, and we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings that goes by a trans man that really has the biology as a woman, apparent as being pregnant.
All right, a little bit of your own story, growing up with a father who identified as a transgender, quite a story, and maybe you can give us a little bit of that and how it shaped your life.
My dad had come out to me at the age of 9, sharing with me of his desire to become a woman. Sadly, he let me know when he would be feeling this way, the hints of how I would know. Obviously, especially in that time, I knew nothing about this, but I honestly sat there and thought, you don't get this. I realize what you've been through in life. By 9 years old, I already recognized that my grandmother was an alcoholic and had mistreated him as a child. That he and his father did not get along at all. There was a lot of jealousy between my dad and his older brother that was a football player. Everybody loved him, popular person. So there were a lot of different red flags at that time. And I thought, you're trying to escape who you are for this fantasy of who you want to become. But what I didn't expect was how it was going to affect me. I personally thought, Dad and I are 2 separate people, and this does not impact my life. But I was so wrong, because obviously I immediately began to grieve the loss of my father. And with further details that had that I had endured was by the age of 11, I began to question God. Was Dad created in the wrong body? And really questioned that. What did that look like? And was that the truth? And if it is the truth, if God made one mistake, then how did I know that I wasn't supposed to be a boy? And taken that thought captive for a couple years and trying to envision what I would look like as a man, what life would look like. The struggles that continued was saving my babysitting and lunch money for alcohol, really trying to mask my own pain and confusion of what was going on in our home. So it was a really difficult childhood.
Wow. Is it possible in your work and research that young people who are experiencing confusion, perhaps during puberty or a little bit beyond, about gender and sexuality, that some of the contributing factors to that confusion is domestic challenges or domestic confusion in the home, or something like you experienced, like the relational with parents? Is that a major factor in this?
Yeah, I do believe that it is. And I only state that because of my experience of speaking with individuals that have struggled with their identity and their life journey, and understanding that sometimes the home environment does play a part in that. Not that, mom and dad are always at fault, because that's not the case. Sometimes it's the way the child perceives a relationship with a parent, or what a mom or dad did, or what a mom and dad said. Something that particularly comes to mind is if one of the parents are comparing one of the child, for instance, a situation I'm thinking of right now is where a dad is comparing his one daughter to the younger daughter, who is a total different person, and trying to transform her to be like her sister. And so there's a lot of resistance going on in that home when she just wants dad to accept her for who she is and the interests that she has and what she likes to do.
Okay, this is so complicated, but excuse me for jumping around on some of these topics, but I want to go to something that's always kind of put my brain on tilt. How and why has the medical community embraced this?
I've always thought that it comes down to money. And, when we look at somebody that is confused, or somebody that decides to transition, we look at the dollar signs. You generally have somebody that transitions and they have a lifetime of drugs that they are taking, whether it's hormones, testosterone, antidepressants, anxiety medications, therapy sessions. It's ongoing. The person believes that they're going to be free by becoming somebody else, but really they're imprisoning themselves. And that is very sad.
Given your education in psychology, I haven't, look, my world's limited, I admit. Sometimes my world's very small. But I have never yet met a transgender who went all the way through all of this that is happy.
I have not either. And I want to say I don't know if that's everybody out there, but from my personal experience of 26 years, I have not met anybody yet that is saying that this is fulfilling them, that this is everything that they thought that it would be. In fact, it's been just the opposite. Sometimes, sadly, there are physical issues that happen because of the surgeries they've had. They thought becoming somebody else was really going to take care of the woundedness that I consider of the heart. And obviously they discover that the problems are still there, or they're still not secure in who they are. There are other scars that sometimes somebody travels through in their life journey.
So why hasn't the psychological community spoke out on this?
That's a good question. When we look at the psychology world, I'm not really sure, especially when we talk about and look at the past years of children transitioning, or the pressure for children to transition when their minds, their brain has not even fully developed until it's, close to 24 years old. And so the question is, why are we putting everybody at risk for really an empty life, unhappiness, the result not being what they were promised or what they were told to expect?
Wow. All right, let me take a quick break. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, check out Denise's website and where you'll be able to check out all of her material. Help and the number 4 families, helpforfamilies.com. There's the picture of the landing page. Check out her latest books. I think you'll find them to be a resource that you may need. You may need, especially the ones that biblical transgender confusion, a biblical Q&A for family. This is a real resource. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Perfect timing and an honor to have with us today Denise Shick. She's the founder and the executive director of Help for Families Ministries. By the way, that is also the website, Help and the number 4 families, helpforfamilies.com. She's also the executive director of Living Stones Ministries, which is a vibrant ministry, and she's the author of quite a few books, and I think there's several here that would be really great for you. Understanding Gender Confusion, a Faith-Based Perspective, and Gender Confusion, a Biblical Q&A for Families. There's a picture of those books on the screen. And again, our website is helpforfamilies.com. Denise, I have to ask you this question. Only because it's front and center in a lot of denominations today. And in fact, it's dividing denominations right down the middle. And that is that the Christian denominations or individuals who believe affirming LGBTQ and people who identify with that is the loving response. This is bigger than just theological. I mean, it's dividing people and denominations. I mean, it's real. And what's your take on it?
You know, the first thing that come to mind was the book of John. The truth will set you free. My dad had attended a church that had accepted him being a woman, anybody that was LGBT. And at one point I had a conversation with the pastor that was the head of this church, and I asked her, why did they not teach or at least meet with my dad to be able to present the truth of the gospel to him? That he deserved that. He deserved that opportunity, whether he accepted it or not. And her response was, we want everybody to feel loved. We all do. Anybody that I know that's a Christian in my lifetime, even those that aren't Christian, we want people to feel loved. And Jesus does love them. He loves them deeply. But the truth is what's going to set them free and to be the beginning of the foundation for them to be discipled, to understand who they really are in Christ and what he had planned for their life. And so seeing this division all the time, it's really heart-wrenching. Because I say our family members that are out there, whether it's an ex-husband, a child, a granddaughter, a niece, nephew, they deserve the truth. If they reject it, that's their free will. But if all the churches stood together on God's truth on these issues, I don't think the churches would be in such a huge conflict with one another.
At the end of the day, people who fight with these identities and struggles and confusion, they're broken children, right?
Yes. Yeah, like I am. You know, we all are. And sometimes we can look at others and think, oh, man, you know, that's... maybe that some will honestly say, well, that person's disgusting, or, you know, look at that person. What about looking inward about where we all were before we came to the kingdom of God? We are all broken. When I think about the brokenness that so many of the individuals have experienced in their life, there are definitely days where I don't need one walk a day. I need 2 or 3 walks a day, because I'm talking to the Lord and I'm saying, what else did you expect to happen in this person's life with the brokenness, what they have endured? And so we have to understand that they are broken people that need the same love that we preach on Sundays, that we try to demonstrate in our workplaces, and every other hour that we can with others.
Back to individuals and churches that are affirming this because they want everybody to feel loved. From past experience, I've noticed something, and that is that those who are allowed to come into a church and maybe even be given a position in the church, who are LGBTQ or dealing with confusion, that their life is more determined by defending this decision they made than conforming to the Word. Therefore, it is a constant rub within the theological ranks. You don't see them promoting Jesus' teaching as much as you see them promoting who they are and justifying it. Or am I over-exaggerating that?
No, that definitely happens. And I think that's where we see the heart of the person. Are they really seeking Jesus? Are they being discipled? Are they wanting to be discipled and come to really know God at such a level that it'll blow them away? Or is it about self-seeking? And if it's self-seeking, then there's not going to be any fruit in the church. It would be constant conflicts.
Somewhat on the same lines, how pervasive is pornography in this confusion?
Oh, wow. That is a great question. And pornography is a huge problem, I would say, for the vast majority of those that I've spoken with and have counseled with identifying as transgender. And I think that's something, again, that we don't speak enough about in church when pornography is such a dangerous addiction.
Wow. I'm trying to hop around it because I could take any one of these for an hour. But let me ask you this. When you're confronted from a parent who's really confused about their child now dealing with this confusion, how do you begin to help them?
I begin to listen. And I think that's something that any one of us can honestly do. It doesn't take a counselor, a psychologist, somebody that's specified in some type of topic. Just listen and let them know that you can be trusted. So as we listen to their story, we as the team begin to understand where they're at, what type of resources do they need. Is it counseling? Is it some type of a support group that is going to benefit them at that time? A lot of times, honestly, it's working through the grief, through the broken dreams that they had, where they thought they'd be in life, where they thought their child would be, or their marriage, even in some situations. So it's coming alongside almost in a way like social services. How can we serve them best and yet encourage them in their faith? Because this is a test of faith. Often family members focus all on their loved one. They are 100% focused on their loved one. But you have to begin to ask the Lord, what is it you want to teach me? What is it you're trying to show me? Because He has entrusted you with this very difficult journey.
Is there any break in the concrete, so to speak, between school and parents, where some states the school can protect this information from the parent, hold it back from the parent? In fact, they can actually instigate the beginning of the transition without parents' notification. It seems to me this is an amazing evasion of parental rights, but how's that going?
Yeah, it definitely is an invasion of parents' rights. And, thankfully, in the last few years, at least on social media, I've seen various stories of dads that are sticking up for their daughters, particularly that are athletics, dads that are sticking up for their daughters in the public, in the restrooms of the school that their daughters are attending, people becoming involved. And that's what we have to do as parents specifically, is to become involved in our schools, in our kids' lives, and to protect their rights, to allow them to have a voice as well. So important for parents to know what's in your school library. What are they being taught in school so that they have a way to also counter that in a safe way at home, discussing the LGBT issues?
Amazing. One last question. It's a big one. Hopefully we can cover it here. How much of this transition, gender transition, is a fad versus genuine confusion? Young people can get caught up on, my day it was smoking a cigarette. Today it's gender confusion. Okay, so how much of this is a fad versus confusion?
You know, I think that we have definitely seen the trend of it up climbing to a fad. And I say that because when you have 2 or 3 girls specifically that I'm thinking of, different cases, that had been friends and all 3 of them decided to transition or want to transition, that's not what we would call a genuine case of gender confusion or the woundedness or the trauma that somebody's gone through. It's about belonging and pairing yourself up where maybe you're not going to receive any peer pressure or on this emotional high that I will be recognized, I will be noticed for this label that I am given myself.
I know, it's pretty amazing. When you see, I guess the other thing is, will schools, education ever get back to boys restrooms and girls restrooms?
You know, I think the Pandora box has been opened, and I would hope that we would. I honestly do, but I don't know if we will see that around every state in our country because we have more liberal states, liberal representatives that are serving those states. It's just going to be a constant battle, just as we see with the abortion issue ongoing.
Well, bottom line, parents, wake up, get involved, ask questions, listen, check out the library, check out the curriculum, know where your kids are, know what they're doing. Denise, you're fascinating. Thank you for your work. I want to encourage you to stay in it. She's the director of Help for Families. That's the number 4, helpforfamilies.com. Also, check out the Living Stones Ministry and a couple of resources there, and that is Transition Confusion, a biblical Q&A for families. There you go. I think you'll find that to be an amazing resource. And again, our website is help4families.com, helpforfamilies.com. Thank you, Denise. God bless you. Stay in there. We need you.
Thank you. You have a great weekend.
You too. God bless.